Birds are commonly thought to be the only present-day animals that are direct descendants of dinosaurs. However, there is a creature alive today that actually swam alongside the dinosaurs, a creature older than even the trees. I'm talking about sharks, of course. And when I see a shark and a bird in the same scene, there's always the thought in my mind of just how many creatures sharks have interacted with in the history of this magnificent planet. Lately, it's the interactions between these two creatures that have captured my wonder. Countless times I've watched sharks seemingly chase birds for no real reason, at least that I can explain. Here's an example. This shark is approaching a bird. Notice how lax the approach is. The approach is a vast difference to a shark engaged in an active hunt. The bird seems to know the shark is there, and just as the shark gets closer, something I see often happens. And it's somewhat comical. Watch this closely. Perhaps we've discovered a new defense technique. Seriously though, one may wonder why some birds don't simply fly away. After all, flight seems to be a major advantage. But in most cases, the birds simply don't. But why? The fact of the matter is that some seabirds have specific physical and strategic reasons why flight isn't the first escape route when on the water. Physical limitations like low body-to-wing ratios is a big reason you see some birds appear to run on the water first. The hardest challenge for some seabirds is getting up in the air in the first place. In order to get lift, they need a lot of air rushing beneath their airfoil wings. Even running as fast as they can is usually not enough. For most birds, wet feathers are highly undesirable because they impede their ability to fly, and they don't provide insulation. But for cormorants and loons, they dive underwater to catch food. They have feathers that become easily waterlogged, which allows them to dive deeper by preventing air bubbles from getting trapped underneath their feathers. This is one reason you often see them standing with their wings wide open, drying their wet wings after diving. Because these seabirds sit on the water, they are usually the birds that encounter sharks most often. And because they can't fly immediately, they must rely on scooting along the water's surface to avoid a shark. And perhaps they have a superpower they possess. While it's the sharks that sometimes benefit from this, after all, they can and do eat birds on occasion, it is ultimately another example of just how interesting the natural dynamic between species can be. Whether it's a pelican flying into the water right next to a shark, or a loon diving into the depths below instead of flying, it's clear that these observations give us just a little bit of insight into the relationship between birds and sharks. One thing stands out to me, however. Birds may be able to assess the risk posed by a shark as relatively low if they perceive that they can easily evade it, or if the shark is not actively hunting them. It may very well be that birds do not perceive them as a direct threat, especially if they have not experienced many negative encounters in the past. This may explain why in some instances the sharks can even appear startled by a bird's response. Watch how this bird appears right beside the shark. It can be deduced that birds may actually be habituated to the presence of sharks in their environment. These examples may demonstrate just how accustomed to sharks birds may be. In fact, pay attention to this clip closely. The shark flares its gills and warns the birds to back off. Let's watch it again. It appears that it's actually the shark that wants the space in this instance. Whatever the reason is, birds do seem to allow sharks to get extremely close. What may be most at play here is a bird's natural ability to calculate risk, a risk assessment. One developed by years and years of exposure to sharks. Perhaps the birds can detect if a shark is actively hunting. It is known that birds have formed various adaptations to avoid predators, including keen senses that allow them to detect threats early. These senses did not come overnight. Birds really do seem to have developed a very unique defense technique, one that allows them to sense the future in a way. It's a stark contrast between the shark and human encounters I witness daily. And it's very likely that most humans believe a shark fin means imminent danger. Even though humans, like birds, exist on the surface of the water often, we have not yet developed this seemingly superpower. And so scenes like this are quite common. Perhaps we are better off without it. I guess the only two questions remaining is, did the dinosaurs also have this ability? And why are sharks so interested in the birds to begin with, if they aren't attacking them? We will just have to keep observing to find out why.